What's up everyone, welcome back to the Talking with My Hans channel. I got another great video for you today, but just so you know, we are rapidly approaching 100 subscribers here on the channel. So if you want to be part of this community, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You'll be the first to know when I make a new video. Alright, in that case, let's talk about today's video, the Star Wars fan spectrum. I wanted to put together something like a graph or something to kind of illustrate the numerous different kinds of Star Wars fans there are out there. Some good, some bad, but we all love Star Wars the same. So, without further ado, here's the Star Wars fan spectrum. Here it is, my life's work, the Star Wars fan spectrum. As you can see right off the bat, it's really not that complicated. There are only two sides to Star Wars fandom these days. There are those that are more pro-Disney, and there are those that are more anti-Disney. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, so why don't you stick around, there's a lot to break down here. Let's start with the furthest ends of the spectrum, the absolute extremes. Over here on the furthest left of the pro-Disney side, we have your Reylos, the Kylo and Rey shippers that have pretty much dominated Twitter for the most part since the release of The Rise of Skywalker. And on the furthest right of the anti-Disney side, we have the Fandom Menace, which is more or less defunct nowadays, but you still see some stragglers here and there. Even further down the anti-Disney side, I added an off-branch of the disgruntled 1977 fans that don't think anything that happened after 1983 is real. No prequels, no sequels. These guys are just angry boomers who are just close to being plain anti-Star Wars at this point. It's also important to recognize that these guys don't represent the majority of the fandom, and they're not all of the fandom. There's a very small minority of people that are the most vocal that lie on the furthest left of the pro-Disney side and the furthest right of the anti-Disney side of the Star Wars fan spectrum. Let's stay over here on the anti-Disney side for a moment, where right next to the Fandom Menace are the fans that are the staunch EU Legends supporters. These people are the folks that choose Legends over the canon material and don't participate in the newest Star Wars books and comics and prefer to read the old stuff. If you hear somebody say the phrase, "Disney ruined Star Wars," it's safe to say that they probably belong on this farthest end of the spectrum. Now let's go back over to the other side, the pro-Disney side. Right next to the Reylos, we have your new fans, or the fans that started liking Star Wars after 2015. Most Reylos are new Star Wars fans, but not all new Star Wars fans are Reylos. Chances are their first Star Wars experience was The Force Awakens and got more into the franchise after that, thusly why they are far on the pro-Disney side of the spectrum. A lot of people in these two groups will probably say that they love the Disney Star Wars movies. Okay, let's flip back over to the anti-Disney side of the spectrum again. These groups aren't too far down the anti-Disney hole, but probably have some reservations about the films. The furthest right of these two, just a step below your Legends EU supporters, we have the prequel memers, and the people that actively use this circle jerk echo chamber that is r/Star Wars. I think a lot of these folks probably recognize the current canon, unlike the Legends supporters and the Fandom Menace, but aren't going to be the people that come out totally for it. These groups will often claim that the world building in the prequels is what makes them good, and will probably make sure that you know that the prequels are in fact better than the sequels. Just next to them, and a little bit closer to neutral, we have the legendary Star Wars YouTuber, Star Wars Theory. I put his picture up here because I think he represents one of the largest groups in Star Wars today, and that's the folks that aren't really anti-Disney per se, but aren't totally for it either. They'll hold back from giving too much praise about the films and definitely prefer the older works, but probably do like a bunch of new things about Star Wars these days. These folks are usually pessimistic when it comes to future Star Wars projects and tend to lean more in line with people that don't like the new movies. Now back on the pro-Disney side, but not the ultimate extreme, we have the fans that are vying for Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni to take over Kathleen Kennedy's job. These are the Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni for president types. These folks are your super Clone Wars and Mandalorian and Rebels fans. A lot of these folks would probably rank the Siege of Mandalore as their favorite Star Wars movie, which makes them pro-Disney, but obviously not to the extent of some other groups. These groups also want Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni to direct an actual Star Wars movie coming up, even though I would imagine that they probably have their schedules full already. A little bit closer to true neutral, we have another popular Star Wars YouTuber and Star Wars Explained. At least in my opinion, Alex and Molly from Star Wars Explained do a really good job at trying to stay as neutral as possible when it comes to giving Star Wars content to the masses. However, Alex especially is a canon nerd and loves canon material more than anyone and knows so much about it. I think that there are a lot of people that are just like him in the fandom, and I like to consider myself as a canon junkie too. So even though he and I and many others try to be non-biased, I think it's pretty evident that we're pro-Disney and optimistic about new Star Wars. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for. Who are the most true neutral Star Wars fans in existence? Who can take the title for being the most non-biased of all the fans? It's not who you think it is. It's the Starship lore nerds. We all know one of these guys. These fans are the ones that can tell you how many quad laser cannons a Venator has, and how many ties an Imperial-class Star Destroyer has. Oftentimes, these fans stream Empire at War or make tech lore videos, and that's all they care about. They couldn't care less about who makes the movies or if they're good or not. They just want to see a good space battle. Eckert's Ladder and Generation Tech are two really good examples of this kind of Star Wars fan. I haven't watched one of their videos where they said if they liked or disliked the movie. I've only heard them call out discrepancies between reference materials. A true neutral fan. Well, there it is, everyone. The Star Wars fan spectrum. Well, what do you guys think? Is it accurate or is it wildly off base? Did I miss any groups? How would you arrange the Star Wars fan spectrum? Where would you put yourself? Let me know all these answers in the comments and we'll discuss. And until then, I'll see you guys later.